Teacher turnover is a really important topic in education policy because teacher turnover tends to be pretty bad for schools, it tends to be pretty bad for students. So there's been a lot of research that has looked at, well, what are the predictors of teacher turnover? And one of the big predictors that researchers have found of which teachers stay in their schools is the quality of the school's principal, the relationships that the school principal has with the teachers in those schools. And so prior research has examined that, and we wanted to dig into that finding a little bit further. So the important innovation in our study is that we looked at the relationship between principal effectiveness and teacher turnover, but we differentiated the performance of the teachers. And that's really important because you wouldn't think that all kinds of teacher turnover are created equal. So presumably an effective principal wants to hold on to their effective teachers, but they may not want to hold on to their ineffective teachers. And that's in fact what we found was happening. If you looked at the turnover relationship for effective teachers with respect to the effectiveness of the principal in their school, as the principal became more effective, conditional on a lot of other factors in school context, and even comparing more effective teachers to other teachers within the same school, we found that turnover rates went down as the principal became more effective. Researchers have known for a long time that the quality of the school's principal is really important for turnover, but they've looked specifically at the average teacher within the school. And what we found is that if you differentiated teachers by their performance, especially if you looked at the quality of classroom observations, that those falling turnover rates with more effective principals really are concentrated among more effective teachers. And under less effective teachers, in fact, those turnover rates go up as the principal becomes more effective. Well, one of the questions we have is, well, what's the mechanism that's driving these results for teachers that are getting low observation ratings? The short answer is we don't really know, but because we don't observe it. We don't actually see what's going on between the teacher and the principal and how that retention decision is made. But there are some hints in the data. Teachers who get high overall evaluation ratings but who still got very low observation scores still show this pattern. So if you got a high evaluation rating overall, you wouldn't necessarily be subject to an administrative removal procedure. School districts have invested really heavily in multiple measures-based systems of teacher evaluation, where they're collecting lots of different measures of whether teachers are performing at a high or low level. And one of the criticisms that's been leveled at those systems is, well, they don't really matter because they don't impact teacher employment at all. We never see that anybody gets let go for low performance in most of the states that have adopted these systems. And our results suggest that that conclusion misses a little bit of what's going on, that in fact, in schools at least where the leadership is of very high quality, low-performing teachers, as measured by their observation ratings, are more likely to leave. It's just they're not showing up on lists of teachers who are let go for low performance because, in fact, they're being counseled out. They're being moved out of that school in other ways. And a really interesting thing that we found is when we looked at where those teachers who left schools with high-performing principals, when we looked at where they went subsequently, what we found is they didn't just show up at other schools within the same school district. They usually exited the system, which suggests that high-performing principals are, when they have a low-performing teacher in their school, they really are getting them out of the educational system altogether. This relationship that more effective principals tend to be associated with higher turnover rates among lower-performing teachers really is most evident when you look at performance as measured by observation scores. The reason that's important is because principals are the ones that are collecting observation scores. So what we interpret that as showing is that effective principals go into classrooms, they're collecting information about the effectiveness of the teachers in their schools, they're rating them on a rubric, and that's the way they're learning about instruction. That's the way that they're learning about performance. A wrinkle in our findings is that it matters how you measure a teacher's performance. So we have in evaluation systems, we have multiple measures of teacher performance. We can look at teacher evaluation information, so observation scores that they've received from their school principal or assistant principal. We can look at the test score growth of their students, for example. In some systems, we can look at other kinds of measures as well. I think one of the implications for policymakers who are really interested in the ability of the teacher evaluation system that they've invested so much in to transform the teacher workforce in their state or maybe in a school district, I think one of the implications here is that they really need to pay attention to the role of the school principal. Principals have not really been thought of as being an important part of those evaluation systems. In a lot of places, we haven't thought about the pivotal role that the principal plays, both in collecting observation information that feeds into the teacher evaluation system, but also being one of the primary users of those measures when they come back to the school.